CRM Part 4. Let's look at the learning outcomes for this section. We'll be looking at the connections between trust, loyalty and satisfaction, both in terms of attitudes with value, trust and quality judgments, and in behaviours with loyalty and positive word of mouth. We'll be understanding how the concept of trust, loyalty and satisfaction are linked to customer relationship development. And to be loyal, you must trust. Trust comes first, and it precedes loyalty. For a relationship to exist, certain behaviours, attitudes and beliefs must be evident. They must be exhibited between the buyer and the seller. First, let's recap on part 3. We looked at the customer acquisition cost, the CAC. We looked at how customer relationships have life cycles with distinct stages: acquisition, development, retention and decline. We looked at customer lifetime value and how all customers have a certain value to the business that can be calculated over time. And we understood how CLV makes marketers able to maximize the management of a relationship by considering it to be an asset. Let's start by looking at the relationship between satisfaction and quality. So consumer perceptions of service quality and customer satisfaction are related, but they are in fact distinct. So a key difference between satisfaction and service quality evaluation is that customer satisfaction is considered as a transactional phenomenon and it's time specific or encounter specific, while perceived service quality is a long-term, generally held, overarching attitude, and thus it's related to an effect on us and our opinions rather than a cognition at a specific point in time. So Oliver tells us consumer satisfaction is defined as a judgment that a product or service feature or the product or service itself provided or is providing a pleasurable level of consumption-related fulfillment. Whereas Parasuraman and his colleagues tell us that service quality is defined as a judgment about an entity's overall excellence or superiority. So within the consumer behaviour literature, there is debate over the relationship between satisfaction and service quality. Some researchers argue that the presence of customer satisfaction is a requirement in order for a positive service quality evaluation to be made. Others argue that the presence of service quality will result in customer satisfaction. What current research appears to tell us is that perceived service quality is in fact an antecedent of future customer satisfaction. So overall, it is generally acknowledged that satisfied customers are more inclined to return to a service outlet in order to repurchase, to spread favourable word of mouth to their friends, and to be less sensitive to price competition from other offerers. So hence, service quality becomes an antecedent to satisfaction. So it's considered to be a source of differentiation and competitive advantage for services in general. And you can see how the relationship-based ongoing quality judgment feeds back to future initial satisfaction judgments that are more transaction-based and time-specific. Now let's talk about customer value. Value is the customer's estimate of the extent to which a product or service can satisfy their needs. So customers determine value by considering alternative solutions and the cost associated with satisfying the need that they have. Therefore, value is relative to a customer's needs, expectations, and experience of competitive offerings within a particular category. So when we think about what value we're getting, we're thinking about what I get for what I pay, and what I get for what I give, i.e. the effort, time and cost involved. So the value can be calculated on the basis of quality and satisfaction added together, minus effort plus time plus cost. So we can characterize perceived customer value as being the perceived benefits of a good or service weighed up against the perceived sacrifice. The perceived benefits being physical attributes, service attributes, technical support, the price, and other indicators of quality. The perceived sacrifice will be all the costs the buyer faces when making a purchase, and they won't just be financial costs, they may be things like time and effort. So customer perceived value is very subjective. It will vary from individual to individual and also may vary according to the situation they're in. The literature tells us that a customer perceives value as a trade-off between benefits and sacrifice. Sacrifice is the cost, and these can be conceptualized as actual costs and potential costs, like risk associated with buying something. There could also be the direct financial and other costs. And the benefits are all the positive outcomes, both tangible and intangible, from receiving the product or the service. I mentioned risk, and risk is an important feature of our evaluation of quality. Perceived risk is concerned with the expectation of loss and therefore closely tied with organizational performance. So we trust that a seller will not take advantage of the imbalance of information between us and them, and that trust hopefully will reduce risk. So trust is associated with continuity, and when it's present, it's indicative of a relationship that stands to last a long time. So there's always overall risk in any transaction we get involved in, but there are other forms of risk at play. With financial risk, we have the risk of financial loss from, for example, hidden costs like a fault or warranty issues. We have performance risk. The thing that we're buying does not meet requirements that it should have done or that were advertised to us at the time of purchase. There's a physical risk. We could simply be harmed or injured by owning and using the product we're buying. There are also other less obvious risks. There's a psychological risk, which is that buying it is somehow inconsistent with our self-image, so it damages our presentation of self in our social lives. There's a social risk. It results in others thinking less of you, which relates to that presentation of self. There's a convenience risk. The purchase results in lost time. If you think of trying to get something fitted or delivered, or that there is a need for downtime in order to onboard the new product, these are all convenience risks. And these all feed into the overall risk, the propensity that the purchase of the item will result in some form of overall dissatisfaction. So what organizations are constantly trying to do is to ensure that we perceive added value in any purchase that we make. And companies are always trying to increase the benefits that purchasing their products offer to customers. This could be done through improved training and support for staff, which adds to the service experience. It could be through co-branding, which is involving yourself with another reputable organization that strengthens your offering. This is done commonly, we see, with coffee makers and coffee machine manufacturers. So you buy the coffee pods from one organization like Dow Egberts, and they are co-branded with a reputable manufacturer for the machine that will allow you to make your coffee. And we see co-branding commonly in the fashion industry as well. There may be guarantees. The Premier Inn is famous for its good night's sleep guarantee, and John Lewis tries to differentiate itself by adding value through increased guarantee benefits if you purchase products at John Lewis, and indeed price matching. And of course, finally, relationships are a form of adding value. If you join a loyalty scheme for a hotel or an airline, they are trying to somehow add value through developing a relationship with you. There is a risk attached to this though, and Raveld and Groenroos tell us that whilst the usual approach is to develop relationships to add value, it can result in companies alienating themselves from the customer. They find that introducing forms of extras or value adds that are not actually driven by the needs of the customer can never really be done for more than a short period of time, because otherwise it begins to alienate the customers. So this introduction of an extra that is not valued by the customer is something that can actually start to drive the customer away, even though the business may be trying to impress them.